I cheated on my wife during a business trip in the city. As I sit here, hunched over my laptop at 2 a.m., I feel a knot in my stomach that doesn't seem to be untangling anytime soon. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to write. I'm not a writer, nor a man of many words. I'm just a regular guy trying to confess something I never thought I'd do, something that happened over the past week. I'm going to preface this by saying that I love my wife. No, it's not the cliche, I love my wife, but scenario. I genuinely, wholeheartedly love her. We've built a beautiful life together, a life that I wouldn't trade for anything. We've had our ups and downs, sure, but we've always been able to work things out. I've been working with a big multinational corporation for the past 5 years. A crucial part of my job is making deals with other companies, and that often involves traveling. One such trip led me to a big city. It was a quarterly meeting, one of those where you go all suited up, ready to crack a multi-million-dollar deal. A nerve-wracking scenario, but one I've been in too many times to count. After the negotiations, a group of us from both companies ended up at the same restaurant. We laughed, shared stories, and before I knew it, I was completely engrossed in a conversation with Sarah, a key executive from the other company. We seemed to click right off the bat. She was smart, engaging, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't find her extremely attractive. The night was winding down, but Sarah and I were still engrossed in our conversation. She suggested we move to the hotel bar for a nightcap, and without a second thought, I agreed. I justified the move thinking that maybe it would be good for business, and I also thought maybe she was only thinking that same thing. So there, under the low-lit ambience and soft jazz music, we continued our conversation. But it had shifted and had become more personal. We laughed and connected on a level that I hadn't expected. It was a different kind of intimacy, not just physical, but emotional and even intellectual. The next thing I knew, we were in my hotel room. The city's skyline glowed against the Inkai night sky, casting a dreamy haze over the entire room. The details of what transpired next aren't relevant here. Suffice to say, we spent the night together, and it was a night I'll never forget. At around 2 a.m., Sarah slipped out of the room, leaving me with my thoughts. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was overshadowed by the adrenaline rush of the night's events. At 6 a.m., I was on a flight back home, back to my wife, back to reality. The guilt that had been a dull murmur until then had started to gnaw at me, and now I sit here, typing this confession. A confession that will probably do nothing to alleviate the guilt, but I need to get it off my chest. I don't want to lose my wife, and I don't want to tell her. I know it's selfish, but I'm scared of ruining what we have. But there's another twist. I have to go back to the city in 3 months. The same city, the same company, and the same group of people, Sarah included. How am I going to handle it? How is Sarah going to handle it? That night was something that shouldn't have happened, but it did. I can't go back and undo it. All I can do now is try to figure out how to move forward. I need to ensure that this doesn't happen again, and yet, there's a part of me that keeps replaying the night, capturing the thrill, the connection, and the guilt all together in a chaotic whirl of emotions. Was it the city, the ambience, or just the sheer excitement of something new that made me cross the line I'd never thought I'd cross? Or was it Sarah, her quick wit, her brilliant mind, her infectious laughter? I can't pin it down. All I know is, I betrayed the woman I love, and it scares the hell out of me. I've seen and read enough to know what affairs do to people, to relationships. They leave nothing but destruction in their wake. I've always held myself to a higher standard, always believed I would be the last person to cheat. But I did. The guilt is unbearable. It's like a dark shadow that looms over every happy moment with my wife, a constant reminder of the man I've become. Every smile, every kiss, every I love you feels tainted now. And the worst part, I can't share this burden with her. I can't let her carry the weight of my mistakes. As the days pass, my mind keeps circling back to the impending trip. I will have to face Sarah again, and I'm not sure how I'll react. What if the spark is still there? What if I'm tempted again? I want to believe that I have learned from my mistake, but I also know that we're often our own worst enemies. On the other hand, what will Sarah do? Does she feel the same guilt? Or was it just a one-night thing for her, something she could easily brush off and move on from? I'm scared of what her answer might be. I've considered talking to Sarah, clearing the air before the trip, but I fear it might stir up emotions that are better left untouched. I've thought about quitting my job, avoiding the trip altogether. But running away isn't a solution, is it? So, I'm left with more questions than answers, plagued with guilt and filled with dread for what the future might bring. I don't know how to navigate this, how to rectify my mistake, or how to stop it from happening again. As I confess this here, I'm not looking for sympathy or advice. Maybe all I need is to air out my guilt, to confess to faceless strangers on the internet because I can't confess to the one person who deserves to hear it. It's a poor substitute, I know, but it's all I have right now. I love my wife, more than anything in this world, and I messed up. I can't erase my mistake, and I can't run away from it. All I can do is live with the consequences and try my best to prevent it from happening again. To everyone reading this, please learn from my mistakes. Cherish the ones you love and don't let a momentary lapse in judgment ruin everything you've built. As for me, I'm left to grapple with my guilt, face my mistakes, and hope that I can navigate through this. To my wife, if you ever read this, know that I'm truly, deeply sorry. I can't undo the hurt I've caused, but I promise to try and make it right, one day at a time. If there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that our actions have consequences that can haunt us for a lifetime. So here's to hoping I can face mine, make amends, and move forward, however difficult that may be. Yeah, he is in a real spot there. What do you think? What would you do if you were in his shoes? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.